The massive starship drifted silently through the dark expanse of space, its metal hull gleaming under distant starlight. Captain HFY Park stood motionless, her eyes fixed on the holographic display tracking alien movement across the Orion sector. Something was different today. The usual patterns of alien fleet movements had changed. Small planetary systems were disappearing from communication networks, entire colonies going dark within hours. Most military strategists would call it random, but Park knew better. Her team of analysts worked quietly behind her, their fingers moving rapidly across advanced computer interfaces. Young technicians like Hana, who had spent years studying alien communication patterns, were now on high alert. They had been tracking the mysterious collective for months, watching its slow but deliberate expansion. The collective was unlike any species humanity had encountered before. They didn't just conquer territories, they consumed them. Entire planetary ecosystems would vanish, leaving nothing but sterile rock and abandoned infrastructure. Their technology seemed decades, perhaps centuries ahead of human understanding. Park remembered the briefings. Intelligence reports suggested the collective had already absorbed 17 different civilizations in the past 2 standard years. Each conquest was swift, calculated, and complete. No resistance had ever successfully challenged their advance. On the main screen, a digital representation of star systems flickered. Red markers indicated lost territories, blue markers showed human-controlled zones, and a growing yellow zone represented the expanding alien territory. The yellow was consuming everything in its path. "Captain?" A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Hana, her lead communications specialist. "We've detected unusual transmission frequencies near the Epsilon Quadrant." Park turned, her expression calm but intense. "Show me." The holographic display shifted, revealing a complex web of signal patterns. To an untrained eye, it would look like random noise. But Hana and her team could read these signals like a language. "These aren't standard communication protocols," Hana explained. "They're using a quantum encryption method we've never seen before. It's like they're communicating without actually communicating." Park understood the implications. If the collective could transmit information without traditional communication channels, it meant their strategic capabilities were far beyond current human comprehension. Outside the ship's massive windows, space seemed peaceful. Stars twinkled. Distant galaxies spiraled in silent beauty. But Park knew the universe was not a peaceful place. It was a complex battlefield where survival meant constant adaptation. The ship's artificial gravity hummed softly, a reminder of how far human technology had come. Yet, compared to the collective, they were still learning, still exploring, still vulnerable. "Prepare detailed reports for Admiral Kim," Park instructed her team. "We need to understand their movement patterns." Young analysts nodded, their fingers already racing across digital interfaces. Each movement, each data point could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Park walked closer to the window, watching the endless darkness. Somewhere out there, the collective was moving, consuming, expanding, and humanity was just beginning to understand the scale of the threat. Her communication device buzzed. An encrypted message from Earth's Central Command. More missing colonies, more unexplained disappearances. The pattern was clear now. The collective was not just exploring. They were preparing for something massive. As stars continued their silent dance outside, Captain HFY Park realized that humanity was about to face its greatest challenge. Not a direct confrontation, but a complex game of survival against an enemy that seemed to understand warfare on an entirely different level. The first move was about to be made, and no one knew exactly what that move would be. In the quiet of the starship, with only the soft hum of technology surrounding her, Park watched and waited. The universe held its breath. The alien ship appeared suddenly, cutting through the darkness like a knife. Its design was unlike anything human engineers had ever seen. All sharp angles and impossible curves that seemed to defy the basic laws of physics. Captain Park watched as the massive vessel approached, her hand steady on the ship's control panel. Her crew moved with practiced calm, years of training showing in every precise movement. The communication team, led by Hana, began scanning for any possible communication signals. No standard response protocols, Hana muttered, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. They're not even trying to communicate. The alien ship drew closer. Its size was intimidating, easily 10 times the size of their human exploration vessel. Sensors showed complex energy signatures that made no sense to human technology. It was like looking at a mathematical equation written in a language nobody could understand. Suddenly, a burst of energy erupted from the alien vessel. Not an attack, but something else. A communication pulse that crashed through their digital systems like a wave. Computer screens flickered. Navigation systems jumped momentarily. Interference detected, one of the junior technicians called out. His voice was calm but carried a hint of tension. Park understood what was happening. This was a probe, a test. The collective was measuring human capabilities, watching how they would respond to this unexpected encounter. Her training kicked in. Years of diplomatic and military preparation had prepared her for moments exactly like this. She wouldn't show fear. She wouldn't show weakness. On the main screen, the alien ship began to change. Its surface seemed to ripple like water reflecting strange light. Complex geometric patterns emerged and disappeared, creating a mesmerizing display that was both beautiful and terrifying. They're scanning us, Hana confirmed. But it's not like any scanning technology we've ever seen. It's more like they're reading our entire system. The ship's computer started receiving fragmented data, strange mathematical sequences, partial technological schematics. It was as if the collective was offering a glimpse into their technology, while simultaneously testing human reaction. Park knew this was more than a simple encounter. This was a calculated move in a much larger game. Her communication officer, a young woman named Minji, looked up with wide eyes. Captain, they're requesting something, but the communication is incomplete. The alien vessel maintained its position. No weapons were visible. No aggressive movements detected. Just pure, calculated observation. Outside the ship's window, stars continued their silent dance. The universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Park made a decision. She would respond, but on her terms. Prepare a standard diplomatic response, she instructed. Basic mathematical sequences. No complex language, just pure information. The crew looked surprised but followed orders immediately. They understood that this moment could define humanity's first real interaction with the collective. As their response transmission began, the alien ship seemed to pause. Its surface shifted again, creating complex patterns that might have been confusion or might have been something else entirely. Minutes passed. Tension filled the ship's command center. Every crew member remained absolutely still, watching the screens waiting for a response. Then, unexpectedly, the alien ship began to move. Not an attack, not a retreat, something else entirely. It was a message, but what that message meant, nobody could yet understand. Captain Park watched the alien vessel drift slowly away, knowing that this encounter was just the beginning of something much larger. Humanity had just taken its first step into a much bigger, much more complex galactic game, and nobody knew the rules. The research facility looked like nothing special from the outside. A simple metal building nestled in a remote area, surrounded by nothing but rocky terrain and distant mountains. But inside, something extraordinary was happening. Hana Choi stood before a massive holographic display, fragments of alien technology scattered across workbenches. Broken pieces of the alien ship's systems lay everywhere. Complex circuits, strange, metallic components that seemed to pulse with an inner light. We're going to crack this, she muttered to herself. Teams of engineers worked in perfect sync. Some analyzed molecular structures, others broke down complex energy signatures. Young scientists who had trained their entire lives for moments like this moved with intense concentration. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Normal rules of physics seemed to bend around these components. circuits that could process information faster than human brains, energy systems that generated power from seemingly nothing. Admiral Seok Kim watched from an observation room. Understood what was happening here was more than just technological research. This was a potential turning point for human survival. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. A junior engineer named Jae Min noticed something strange about how the alien circuits processed information. Instead of traditional binary systems, these components used quantum entanglement in ways nobody had previously imagined. "Look at this," Jae Min called out, his voice trembling with excitement. A holographic projection showed how the alien technology could simultaneously process multiple information streams. Hana moved closer. What Jae Min had discovered wasn't just interesting, it was revolutionary. Within weeks, human engineers began adapting alien technology. They didn't just copy, they reimagined. A computer system that could once process 1,000 calculations now processed millions. Propulsion systems that seemed impossible became potential realities. The military was watching carefully. If these technological adaptations worked, humanity's defensive capabilities would change forever. Complex algorithms were developed. New computational methods emerged. Each alien component became a puzzle that human intelligence slowly began to solve. But it wasn't just about copying technology. Humans were doing something the collective never expected. They were improving it. A weapon system designed for destruction became a potential communication tool. An energy generation method became a solution for sustainable planetary development. Where the collective saw pure technological function, humans saw potential. The research facility became a beacon of hope. Not just for military strategists, but for everyone who understood that technological innovation could be humanity's greatest weapon. Admiral Kim reviewed the latest reports. The pace of discovery was accelerating. What would have taken decades was now happening in weeks. "They underestimated us," he said quietly to himself. Outside, the world continued its normal routine. People went to work, children went to school, nobody knowing that inside this simple building humanity was preparing for its most significant technological leap. Hana continued working, her hands moving rapidly across holographic interfaces. Each discovery was another piece of a complex puzzle. Each breakthrough brought humanity one step closer to understanding the true nature of their potential cosmic opponents. The alien technology seemed to pulse, almost like it was aware, almost like it was challenging human ingenuity to unlock its secrets. And humanity was rising to that challenge. In laboratories, in research centers, in secret military facilities around the world, the technological revolution was beginning, slowly at first. Then, with increasing speed and complexity, the collective had no idea what was coming. Fragments of alien technology continued to pulse with their strange inner light, waiting to reveal their next secret. The war room was silent. Screens flickered, with tactical displays showing the expanding yellow zones of collective territory. Admiral Seok Kim stood at the center, surrounded by humanity's most brilliant strategic minds. Woo Jin Lee, the lead diplomatic strategist, moved a holographic marker across the galactic map. His fingers traced potential intervention points with surgical precision. This wasn't just a military operation. This was a complex chess game where every move could change everything. Intelligence suggested the collective was preparing for a massive expansion. 17 planetary systems had already fallen. Their technology seemed unstoppable. But humanity had been watching, learning, preparing. "We won't fight them traditionally," Woojin explained to the gathered team. "We'll fight them strategically." The plan was simple yet revolutionary. Instead of direct confrontation, they would use the collective's own systems against them. Intercepted communication protocols would be subtly manipulated. Navigation systems would receive false information. Supply routes would be strategically disrupted. Captain Jae-hwa Park had developed a series of unconventional intervention strategies. Small teams would infiltrate key communication nodes, introducing complex algorithmic disruptions that would confuse the collective's decision-making processes. One team, led by a brilliant young engineer named Minji, had developed a way to introduce subtle mathematical anomalies into the collective's quantum communication networks. These weren't attacks. They were more like intellectual infections that would slowly destabilize their entire system. The first test came unexpectedly. A small collective scout ship approached a neutral planetary system. Traditional military response would have been direct confrontation, but not this time. Minji's team introduced a series of complex communication disruptions. The scout ship's navigation systems began to malfunction. Its communication protocols became confused. What should have been a simple reconnaissance mission turned into a complete operational failure. No shots were fired. No direct conflict occurred. Yet the collective lost an entire strategic unit. More interventions followed. Supply routes were subtly redirected. Communication channels were slightly altered. Information networks became unreliable. The collective's massive technological advantage began to crumble under the weight of constant, invisible disruptions. Wu Jin called it psychological technological warfare. Traditional military strategists would have called it impossible, but humanity was proving nothing was impossible. Admiral Kim watched the developing strategy with careful attention. Each intervention was calculated. Each move was precise. They weren't trying to destroy the collective. They were trying to make them question their own capabilities. Deep in secret research facilities, teams continued developing more complex intervention methods. Some were technological. The collective began to notice. Their massive technological networks started showing unexpected vulnerabilities. Systems that had worked perfectly for centuries suddenly became unreliable. What made these interventions powerful was their subtlety. No direct conflict, no massive military confrontations, just constant calculated disruptions that would slowly erode the collective's confidence and operational capabilities. Weeks turned into months. The yellow zones on the galactic map stopped expanding. For the first time, the collective found themselves defensive, uncertain, questioning their own technological superiority. Humanity had discovered something profound. In this complex galactic conflict, intelligence and adaptability were more powerful than pure technological strength. Captain Park reviewed the latest intervention reports. Each successful operation was another step towards understanding their mysterious opponents. Each disruption was a message. Humanity would not be easily conquered. The war room continued its silent vigil. Screens flickered. Strategies were developed. The complex game of galactic survival continued, and humanity was just getting started. The negotiation chamber was unlike anything the collective had ever seen. No weapons, no traditional diplomatic barriers. Just a simple room with a circular table and representatives from multiple species. Wu Jin Li sat quietly, his hands folded carefully. Behind him, Captain Jae-hwa Park and Admiral Seok Kim watched carefully. This wasn't just a negotiation. This was humanity's ultimate strategy. The collective's lead representative, a being known as Rokhtar, looked confused. Their technological superiority had crumbled. Their expansion had stopped. For the first time in centuries, they were being asked to negotiate rather than conquer. "We do not understand," Rokhtar stated, its translation device rendering words in perfect human language. "You have disrupted our systems, challenged our technological supremacy, yet you request dialogue?" Wu Jin smiled. A simple, calm gesture that seemed to confuse the alien representatives even more. "Expansion is not survival," he explained. "Cooperation is survival." The room fell silent. Representatives from multiple conquered planetary systems watched carefully. Humans had done something unprecedented. They hadn't destroyed the collective. They had strategically weakened them just enough to force communication. Hana Choi, the lead engineer who had helped decode alien technologies, presented a complex proposal. It wasn't a surrender document. It was a potential framework for mutual technological exchange. A way for different species to share knowledge without conquest. The proposal was brilliant in its simplicity. Each species would contribute technological knowledge. Each would receive protections. No single civilization could expand at another's expense. Resources would be shared. Scientific discoveries would be collaborative. Rocktar studied the documents. Complex mathematical sequences. Technological. Exchange protocols. Communication frameworks that respected individual planetary sovereignty. What humans had done was remarkable. They had transformed a potential galactic war into a diplomatic opportunity. Admiral Kim understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't just about stopping the collective. This was about creating a new framework for interstellar cooperation. The negotiations continued for days. Each species brought their unique perspectives. Humans remained calm, strategic, always one step ahead. Technological. Limitations were discussed, cultural differences were examined, potential conflict zones were mapped. But the fundamental approach remained the same: mutual respect and collaborative potential. Young diplomats and scientists watched in amazement. What seemed impossible weeks ago was now becoming reality. The collective, once seen as an unstoppable force, was now sitting at a negotiation table. Rocktar finally understood. Humanity hadn't defeated them through pure military might. They had outsmarted them through intelligence, adaptability, and a fundamental understanding of cooperative potential. "We accept your proposal," Rocktar finally stated. The room erupted in careful, controlled celebration. No loud cheers, just a quiet understanding that something fundamental had changed in galactic relations. Captain Park looked at her team. Years of preparation, months of strategic intervention, weeks of careful diplomatic maneuvering had led to this moment. Humanity had not conquered, they had transformed. As the first official documents of the new galactic cooperation were signed, something became clear. The universe was not about technological superiority. It was about understanding, about finding common ground, and humans had just shown everyone how that was done. The negotiation chamber remained silent. But it was a silence filled with potential, with hope, with the promise of something entirely new. The game had changed. And humanity had won, not through destruction but through understanding.